So, in the world of iOS mobile development, you've got to be good at passing that technical interview. And that technical interview is not going to do you any justice if you don't understand dependency injection. I'm going to go over one aspect of dependency injection using the environment object. We're making an API call. You got tests and everything. You know what I'm saying? So I'm giving you a whole bunch. A lot of these other people, they aren't giving you a whole bunch. How much longer are you going to go out here wasting your time, spinning your wheels with these fake tutorials that are not telling you how to pass the interview? This is a great example how to pass that tech interview. So let's go. So let's talk about one thing. Why do we need a dependency injection, right? Obviously, you can create an app with no explicit dependency injection. As a matter of fact, some people create apps in the beginning. You finish a boot camp or whatever, and you still don't understand what dependency injection actually is, even though kind of technically you've already been using it, right? So dependency injection is just whenever you create a particular object. In this case, we're talking about a view model, where there are a lot of things that go into the view model, right? Right? You got to know where your data is coming from, right? Things like that, right? And your data is probably going to come from a networking service, right? When you open up, when you go to a particular view or page, you aren't instantiating the networking service there. You have to pass around those values that make your view model work on that page some kind of way. Dependency injection is that way. I'm going to show you in a very visual way what I'm talking about. But one thing you got to understand is that you're really going to need dependency injection in a professional environment. Why? Because you got to mock some things. That means have fake data. Why do you have fake data? You have fake data in your project because for testing purposes. You cannot go and run a test and have your test be consistent all the time if you're depending on network calls. That's the reason why. Okay? So basically what you have to do is you got to have this data locally. You can even fake the asynchronous or the pause in the waiting, but you can't depend on a network call over the network like you usually do with an API call, right? So to make your test consistent, what you're gonna do is you're going to have a mock. So, and I'm gonna tell you another thing too. You don't mock for the sake of mocking, right? You mock when when you can't really predict the consistency of a particular outcome, right? So when I make a networking call, you know, the networking call being successful is dependent more on whether you made the call properly or whether the service on the other end is working properly. You also have, you know, networking traffic, right? So, or your internet going down, right? Connectivity, right? Your service. So we have to fake this. You know, I hope I'm getting that clear, right? And that's what you have to do in a professional environment, right? So an example I'm gonna show you, we're gonna make a mock networking service. That's the only thing we're gonna mock. We're not gonna mock a model. To me, that's overkill. And a lot of companies, they do that. And on top of that, we're going to try and get some decent code coverage. I'm not shooting for 90 or whatever, you know, just maybe 70 something, right? Just to show you what you're going to have to deal with. Because in a professional environment, you know, what you're going to do is, come hell or high water, you're going to have to handle dependency injection. There's no doubt about it, period. You're gonna have to handle it. You're gonna have to go in the code and refactor other people's code or dig through the code or understand it, come up to speed, right? With that dependency injection, unit testing, and UI testing. Point blank, any type of professional environment. Point blank, period. You can't be a fish out of water. You won't last. You get cut, and they'll bring in the next guy. This is about you going in here, getting this money, and staying. So we're going to talk about that later. Okay, so let's talk about this. Remember I discussed how you can't make money in iOS mobile developments, right? Without doing well on this tech screening. And I'm sorry, you're not going to be a developer, do well at this tech screening at a company that's worth anything if you don't understand dependency injection. That's it. All there is to it. So let's go in here. And so let me explain something to you. Instead of walking you through code, what I'm going to do is I'm going to explain the overarching feature, and then I'm going to show you the code. We're going to walk through it, and then I'm going to make it available for download. And the link's going to be in the description. So right now, let's talk about this. This right here is our basic, workflow with regard to app and JSON response, right? So you have your app, and your app makes a call to a remote service right here. Boom, boom. Remote service responds. So in our situation, we're going to have an app that sends an acronym. We'll just say SA. That's the acronym. And it returns a list of words this acronym can stand for, right? Boom, boom, boom. In a JSON response, right? Or actually, this is data, right? We get here, and then we process the data or the JSON. We process the data, turn to a JSON response, right? We parse it, and then we take this data and make it into a JSON response, and then we get the data that we need from it, which is the list of words. And then we take it and we display it on the screen. It's kind of simple as that, right? This next one is a little more simplified. Basically, again, you make the API call to the remote service, you get your response back. The response is data. Use your model, parse it to JSON. That JSON is going to be a bunch of objects with the data in it, and then you're going to get your list out of that. And I'm going to show you how to extrapolate it from that. Again, that's just some pictures, I don't know. And then another thing, so we'll discuss in short. Sorry about that. In short, dependency injection, okay? And that is this. Stop. Dependency injection, and that is this. You have your app, right? When you start your app up and you go to the first view controller with the windows, that's where you have your environment object. And in that environment object, you're going to instantiate your view model and pass to it what it needs to be of use later on in other objects. And then you're gonna use this, you're gonna access the environment object all around your app, right? So you have your environment object, you inject it. When you instantiate it, you put it into the view model. Your view model goes and makes the network call. Okay, you fetch the data, right? And then your view model is going to update your view. Okay, this is still abstract, but then now I'm going to show you in code. Okay, so let's do this. I'm going to go ahead, and we have this project. And in this project, we have our main is called display list async await with protocol. Okay. And what we do is we have our main, stop killing me. We have our main list, and right here, let's go ahead and we'll do the content view model. So regular content view model, this is where we instantiate our view model and we put it into a what? Our environment object. This is the first thing that runs when we start our app. So this is where we're going to instantiate our view model, right? Using this function. And then from here, our first file that we go to is content view right here. Let's go to content view. And this is our content view. Our content view is all of this, right? So as you can see, we're passing the content view model information to this view model. And this is what we use to update. We retrieve data, we make the call, and we retrieve data based on the input text. And this input text, this input text gets the data, and we update our list. And this is the list right here. This is all the list functionality. View model.word list, and we populate it. So let's go ahead and get started, and let's talk about how this works. Again, I used to code with you guys, but I think that that's not really the best way to go about teaching this. There's so much to cover, and I don't want to piecemeal it. I want people to get out here and get jobs, because yeah, this administration has run this economy into the ground, and I'm here to help. So right here, I'm just gonna say ls, do a return, and it makes the API call, and there we go. Lumbar spine, long sleep, lateral septum, right here, all these words come back, all right? And so, yes, this is all the stuff. And so if I already change this and make this AZ, and these are the acronyms that come back for AZ, right? But if I say ZZ, let's see what comes back for ZZ, right? And it doesn't do anything, because in the functionality I have it to where it doesn't do anything when it doesn't return anything, right? If I say ZO, it returns something. Okay, so now let's go back and let's see how this works, okay? So we have our content view, and that is this. This is the content view, the view model. I've already gone over the content view. And if you don't understand views in Swift, I have other videos where you can go over that and learn. There are lots of resources on this channel and other YouTube channels. But I'm trying to get you guys ready for like a real position in the real world, especially today. So let's go to content view model. Boom, boom, boom. This is our view model, right? This is what we instantiated. And right here, this is the word list. And we do our networking service. Now, I want you to remember this. Right now, you're using you're just using the regular content view model, no mock data. Okay? Go back to our view model. And we're passing it this way. Why? I mean, we don't have to do it this way. Why are we doing it this way? Right? With using the network service protocol. Network service protocol is coming into play because this protocol makes it possible for us to create a mock networking service. That's why. And when you start opening, when you start going through other people's code in an enterprise level, this is what you're going to see. You're going to see stuff like this, right? So basically, when I instantiate it, as I do in this area, I'm not passing anything, right? I pass nothing. Go back to the content view model, right? So by default, this is network service shared, networking protocol. Networking service equals networking service shared, retrieve data, right? Because our networking service is what? What are networking services usually? I've discussed this in another video. Networking services are usually, what are they? Singletons, right? That's what this is. Networking service, public static shared networking service, and an initializer. Okay. Then we have our retrieve data function, right? Pass it a URL, and what do? We return an array of strings. Now, if for this project, we're using async await, but you can use open and escaping closures or combine. We're using async await right here. Okay. Right here, this is how you get your, put your URL in here as data URL response, and you should receive what? Data response. You test your response, make sure it's good, between 209, 299, check the status quote. If it's between there, you're good. Otherwise, you're gonna throw an error, bad response. That's my custom errors, right? Now, our response is good, right? And now what I want to do, excuse me, now that my response is good, I'm going to get the data from here. This data, I'm going to decode it using what? The model, acronym list. Just go here. This is the model that correlates with what we're doing, okay? Again, I show how to make models in another video. So I'll make a list of videos that you can use as references to make this make sense. Okay. Now we have the acronym list. I gotta check if it's empty. After that, I need to go through it. Stop. Hold on, let me pause this. Let's get to this networking service. So now, yes, and right here is where we're gonna parse it. And we get our word list right here. And when you go back to your content view, here we go, word list. And this is what we use to populate our list. Simple as that. And of course, you have your model here. That's your model. And, we have our other functions. They build the URL. We have our custom errors so that when things break, these define what the errors are. Things like that. And of course, everything is brought together by a networking service protocol. So as you see, networking service protocol. And let me tell you what a protocol does in this situation. Protocol is nothing but something that allows objects, in this case, view models, to conform to them, right? So that when you want to do maybe a mock networking service or mock some type of data, you can plug another function in and it conforms to it directly. It ensures that everything accepts the same parameters and works the exact same way, or you can kind of simulate the exact same way. It doesn't work the exact same way. And this is what I mean. So I have this. This is our networking service. And this is something, by the way, this is something that a lot of people in software development, they don't explain in their videos. That's why most of them suck. Right here, you have this protocol, right? If I take this, boom, boom, and I do a search, right? Find out where this is used. So this is our protocol right here, but it's also used here, right? Our networking service is this, right? So is our mock networking service, which we'll get into later. We'll get into this later, right? And most importantly, your content view model. So when you use your networking service and you pass it to there, pass it to your content view model, right? You're going to have a property at the top that is networking service, and it's of type networking service protocol, right? And networking service protocol has this what? has a signature. They always have a retrieve data with a URL parameter, and it runs asynchronously and throws a custom error or returns an array of strings. Go back. And they must always do that because that's one of the things you put in your protocol. Okay. Right? So now this is your initializer, okay, with a default value. And remember, when you have an object like a class or whatever that has a default value, right, that means that you don't have to set it, right? You can pass it just the regular open brackets. But if you want to override it, you pass it and you call it service. And it must meet the networking service protocol requirements, right? It must have that retrieve data for list function. Okay. And so here it is right here. Our model has retrieved data for list and, has everything to process this string, right? Which is you get the string, make sure the string is there. Otherwise, is no string parameters passed. You have that error. And then you have build your constants, URL service, right? So you build this entire URL with this string, and this string is that acronym, right? The acronym that you pass here, right? Or else it throws errors. And then after that, you pass this URL to this retrieve data, networking service, and you get back a list of this right here. And you build this list and you put it into word list, right? So now, once this is finished running, this value is changed from an empty array to a list of words based on what you got back from your networking service. And let's look at our content view, and then that's how that works, right? And you get this, okay? As you can see, every time I change it, ls, okay? Word list changes every single time, okay? Now, let's talk about mocking. And it's very simple. Because I have this set up in the environment object, what I'm going to do is simple as this. This is our mock networking service with dummy data, okay? And what does it do? It implements the networking service protocol. That means what? It has a retrieve data URL, just like this. With all these parameters, same exact signature. It must have the exact same signature. And it does. Okay. Except this returns fake information. There is no networking service call, right? Because again, you don't want your test to be dependent on external factors like networking connectivity. Is it up? Is your network up? Is your down? Is your internet up? Is it down? Is it AT&T or T-Mobile acting stupid? You don't want to worry about none of that, right? So that's not good for testing. Okay. You want your test environment to be kind of closed off. All right. So now you have this. So what I do is I have my information, JSON response.geojson. A .geojson file is this JSON response. And this is an example of what data looks like coming back from the networking service, except it's not coming from a networking service. It's local. But this is the type. And all of this aligns with, all of this aligns with acronym list, right? This can parse this, right? So let's go back to my networking service. I go ahead and get my URL information. URL information basically just shows where the GeoJSON response is. Once I get that, right, and my data, I use that to get data. I take the data, I use that against my what? My data model, which is this acronym list.self. See the data right there. JSON decoder.decode. By the way, I have tutorials that talk about JSON decoder.decode. Okay, right? Get your acronym list. If you can't do it, throws this error. If you can, you get your acronym list. Now I test to make sure that the acronym list is not empty, right? Otherwise, it throws an error empty object, right? If it's not empty, right? So when it throws this error, everything stops. It doesn't do anything. It just throws this error, right? That's the reason why here, boom, boom, if I say ZZ, I mean, ZZZ, because we know it doesn't do anything, right? You don't get nothing back. It throws an error. I'm not writing it to the screen, but I could if I wanted to. But I mean, look, you got enough stuff to cover, and you can experiment that with yourself because this project is available for download from my GitHub, right? So, and again, this word list. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to go here. This was content model, but you know something? It's time to test it, right? Do this right here, this right here. Let me just see something real quick. Boom. Sorry. See. Okay. Up here. Let me just see something. It's killing me. Command this right there. There you go. Command this. Okay. So now I'm going to pass to this a mock networking service. And that's what you want to do. You want to be able to just flip a switch to go from testing environment, mock environment to not mock to real environment, right? That's what you want to do because in your job, in your real world, that's what they do. They flip a switch. One is test data, the other isn't. Okay, and then you're going to use this test data. You might use this test data for running your unit tests. So I run this, right? We start this over again. So I'm going to go here. Did I run this? And now it really doesn't matter what I put into this. It doesn't matter because as soon as I put it in, all I'm going to get is information or response based on this dummy data because I'm mocking. So if I say HJ, there we go. This is see this? The exact same data. Boom, 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 right? And so, yeah, because you just want to mock. Okay. And that's how you get mock data. So the next thing you're saying, well, that's pretty useless. I mean, why would you want to get mock data? So you're not testing the quality of the information. You're testing how the functions work, right? You're testing how everything that uses, for example, your view model. You're testing how your view model reacts under certain conditions, and you can change your mock data to meet those requirements and run specific tests, right? But we're gonna get more into testing. Right now, I just showed you how to create a mock object, and you implement that using dependency injection and your environment variable. Now, that's it for right now. Next thing we're going to do is we're going to get to running UI tests, unit tests, and code coverage. But if you have any more questions, leave questions in the comments and I'll answer them. And you can also feel free to go to get into my GitHub, download or clone, and play with the projects on your machine. Okay. On to the next.